I'm Mark Ramsey. I am really thrilled to be talking to Toby Trevarthen. He is the VP of AHA Radio by Harman. And Toby, you and I have had a conversation before about what's coming to the auto dashboard. AHA is a big ingredient to that. Can you just start by talking about what the heck AHA is?
Yes. First and foremost, we are a platform that utilizes an app technology today, given the fact that you need to be either tethered or Bluetooth into the vehicle. But effectively, what we do is aggregate various kinds of digital audio, and that can range from audiobooks, podcasts, streaming radio, and we also have the idea of location-based offerings such as Hungry or Coffee, gas, weather, parks, things that you would typically do with your vehicle or in your vehicle.
Now, your relationships with automakers vary by automaker, and I'm wondering, where are you most fully realized, and why aren't you more fully realized on more auto platforms?
Good question. Today we're announced on 50 makes. We're working, I think it is with around 10 or 11 OEMs now. And we're also across multiple Tier 1 head unit manufacturers as well. I believe we work with about 11 of those. So that takes us outside of the Harman-only realm and allows us to play with the Panasonics and the Fujitsus and whatnot. From a platform perspective, I would say right now our top people that we play as a platform on, Honda, Acura, we're in both of those OEMs, Subaru, and Porsche, and we just announced Mazda as our first global partner. So that's here and also in Japan. And then we've got announcements coming with Hyundai, Chrysler. We're also engaged with Ford as we speak, but that's more of an app integration approach than the platform. We have the ability to normalize all these various digital audio assets into a stream. So everything streams into the car and shows up just like radio. So the way that you interface with us when you engage with the smartphone into the vehicle, be it Bluetooth or tethered and soon to be embedded, the screen goes to a lock screen, so you effectively can't use your phone other than for inbound calls. And it ports all of the intelligence that we have in our app run via the cloud into the head unit, because most head units are pretty low CPU, so you really can't put a lot of complexity there. You need to keep the complexity in the cloud to make it simple for the interface. So if I'm a user and I'm used to AM, FM, and XM, and I turn it on and it just works, I think that's the expectation that we need to achieve with the end user, so that when I'm in the car, I'm not missing out because of some connectivity issue, or I go through a tunnel or over a bridge and I lose my connectivity, which is still very much a truth out there right now.
It just strikes me as interesting that when you talk about the desire by the OEMs to have a unique identity apart from each other. Do you think that sometimes that desire for a unique identity takes a front seat, so to speak, ahead of the user experience?
I think that is a conundrum that the car industry is having to grapple with. I mean, if you think about it, they've had a monopoly on that environment for 100 years. And now you've got consumers coming into the vehicle, bringing their stuff with them, and the smartphone is changing that dynamic. So I think there's going to have to be some compromise and some give and take on how those two will intersect, so that me as the end user get the experience I want.
And do you think that this kind of battle for uniqueness on the part of the OEMs is going to take precedence over the user experience?
I think if the car companies have it their way, yes. But if the pull of the consumer becomes as significant as I think it will be, there's going to have to be some kind of harmony between I want it the way I want it versus what you're providing for me.
I mean, you mentioned that the streaming radio elements that were part of your platform, that you use the expression just like radio. And
Hmm.
I wonder, where does radio in its traditional form, i.e., the stations that we all grew up listening to, where does that fit on the connected dash of tomorrow from your perspective?
I think it still plays a significant role because the vehicle itself is very local in nature. But the idea that I can bring the radio stations from home, like I grew up in Flint, Michigan, and Detroit, I'm now finding myself listening to Michigan Insider and WJR um, while I live in San Francisco. That doesn't happen without connectivity. So porting stations that you grew up with or that you like, I think is going to be kind of a new phenomenon where the industry is going to have to deal with, like WFAN. I may not be in New York. I may be in Idaho, and I'm listening to you. How do you reconcile that in your numbers and your ratings and things like that? So I see some of those dynamics playing out. Um, the second thing is, I think, given where we're going with connectivity and how pervasive Google, Facebook, Twitter, Apple is in my life, I think I can see the car being reimagined. Uh, Given the report you look at, it's about 8% of your day, or roughly 2 hours. Google clearly understands the value of 2 hours, getting you to do more Google things in the car. I'm not quite sure everyone else kind of grasps that. But I see that as an opportunity to think about the car like YouTube did for video or like Flipboard's done for print, where you've got all these neat ingredients um, now tethered to time of day. Can I serve up new things? Is your mood different in the AM versus the PM? Do I have people in the car with me or not? If I'm on a road trip, can I serve up an entire road trip experience that standard radio may not address? So it affords new kinds of content to be brought to bear.
That's really, really interesting. And I can see from the demonstrations of AHA how you're trying to bring that to life. But you just kind of boil that into a strategy right there. And I think it's really so important for people to understand that by reconceptualizing the car, you're really reconceptualizing what what a not an entertainment information um, partner experience in a car can be when it can be mediated by technology, right?
Correct.
You're really saying that if I exist in a place, there are things happening around me, and the car can help me understand and appreciate and value that. The
Yep.
car can help me achieve my goals, whatever they are, based on where I am and what I want and the time of day and so on, right?
Yep.
And historically, not a lot of these things were components of radio. Radio was more of a, well, I'm in the car, I'm going into traffic, I want to get my traffic from radio, and radio was providing traffic because they're the traffic station, so they're
Yeah.
the
On
place
the
to go
eights.
to. Yes,
On
on
the
the
eight
eights, and even though I may want traffic on the fours
now.
now, right now, on this
Yes.
four.
Yes.
So I wonder how you see that playing out. What is the role for radio, this one-to-many medium, um, in the light of in the context of an experience which has to do with place and value and what matters to me in this moment?
Well, as someone who enjoys listening to radio, and I actually have about an hour and 15-minute commute every morning, so I am living this whole space, both reimagined and in current form. Um, I'm finding as I get older, I'm much more talk oriented in heavy sports because I'm a sports freak. So I do tend to listen to syndicated sports as well as local sports talk, but I get really bored after 15, 20 minutes of hearing someone ramble on. So in this connected space, I might migrate out and plug into my 60 minutes that I didn't watch on Sunday night, and I now can listen to it its entirety. And effectively, what that's done is completely shifted me off the dial and filled 60 minutes of a drive, or 52 minutes with commercials. But so I think radio is always going to have a play. I can see now where I think it's going to get much more fragmented, and it's going to come down to share of mind. Are you keeping me engaged with your content or not?
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a sec, because what you just described is a scenario whereby there's a certain genre of content that's unique to that spot on the dial, maybe that spot anywhere, and
Hmm.
compelling to you, and you seek that out. In your case, it might have been sports radio. You get bored with that, you go to some other kind of unique and compelling content that happens not to be provided by a conventional radio station. That's the
Correct.
picture you just painted. Does that
Yep.
suggest that you would anticipate that over time that radio would get more unique um, to the world, so to speak?
I think it's a two-way street, right? If more people discover you outside of your wattage, that's a good thing for radio, right? Because you're being picked up. TuneIn, I think, is doing an excellent job with. I think they just announced 100,000 stations. If someone in Japan picks up a local station out of Idaho and it works for them, that's great. But they're going to have to figure out how to monetize that, which is kind of some of the challenge. And conversely, yeah, if there are things that pertain to me locally, and I'm in my local mindset, I will tune into that. But when I fade away from my local mindset and I start thinking about things I need to do, or my lists that I forgot, or I got to pick somebody up, all those distractions, which used to occur and still occur while the radio was still playing, I now can satisfy those different urges with a solution.
Okay, and that leads to two questions. One is the local mindset you just mentioned. What is that? What is a local mindset?
Um, I'm using me as a subject of one.
I
You
understand.
know, living in California, you're tuned in, depending on where you live. Weather obviously is a piece of it, but traffic is huge for me, given the driving conditions we deal with. And then, just local hazard type things. So earthquakes, things of that nature, fires. There are things that are germane to where you live locally. Tornadoes in the Midwest, hurricanes in
Okay,
the East.
just for the record though, what you're describing are essentially, disasters of either man-made or natural, right? It's not the kind of thing that can, guarantee daily listening to a radio station in the connected car, is it?
Yeah, yeah. If I'm thinking about my dinner tonight and I realize I have nothing in the fridge, and all of a sudden I have a connection with Safeway via my car, and I can voice in my list, or maybe I've pre-programmed that kind of a thing in my car. Now the cars become pretty functional
Yeah,
and more utilitarian.
the car becomes a digital adornment, not unlike the mobile device itself, right? It's the ultimate.
Right.
It's the much larger mobile device.
Exactly. It's the ultimate mobile
I,
device.
I, I would just hasten to point out that kind of the picture that you painted, which may well be accurate, is one where people listen to radio either because they're more familiar with it than these other things, or because it's got emergency information on it, which many in broadcasting would not say are the richest set of reasons to continue to listen to
Right,
radio in a
right,
connected age.
right.
These other facets of place and time that
Hmm.
the connected car can serve so effectively. To what degree can America's traditional broadcasters take advantage of these opportunities and needs? To what degree, in other words, are they part of the portfolio that's available to me, the radio broadcaster,
Hmm.
or part of the portfolio that simply isn't?
I think the notion of enhancing the P1 comes to mind. In fact, we just had this conversation this morning. Um, One of the things that we're going to be able to do with AHA is a fully interactive experience. So the ability to touch a thumb up, thumb down to guide my like or dislike for something. The ability to nav to somewhere, to call to somewhere, the ability to get a coupon and hit save and then have it, regenerate in your phone or in some file. A caller could call in or give an opinion or vote in the car like they never have before. Trying to remember the call-in number that they read 100 miles an hour, or remembering the URL while you're at 60 miles an hour. Those just are not conducive ways to engage. But if I could help radio reach its P1 most important people and give them a voice and give them the ability to engage, I think there could be some interesting dynamics there.
So what you're describing, if I understand correctly, is the ability to add value to the streaming experience once that streaming experience pipes through the AHA platform. Is that right?
Correct. And because I'm real time, if not near real time, I'm pretty instantaneous. So if I'm streaming radio in, I should be able to respond. In fact, if I'm listening to BBC and I want to be able to call BBC while I'm in San Francisco, I can do that.
So theoretically, I would be able to, on the screen on my AHA experience is my local radio station, let's say, and I
Hmm.
can interact with that station vocally or by touch or whatever in ways that are negotiated between you and the broadcaster. It could relate to advertisers, it could relate to songs, it could relate to something else.
Content's content, right? So if I can interact with it, which we can, it opens up new possibilities, and really we're kind of limited by imagination on some level.
All right, the platform is AHA Radio. Toby Trevarthan is the vice president of AHA by Harman. Toby, thank you so much for your time today and for shedding
All
some
right.
light on this incredibly complicated thing called the dashboard, which used to be ever so easy.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a very exciting place, but it's still early stages.
One
So,
last question. Five
yeah,
years from now, what's the experience like?
5 years from now, I think we're somewhere in the 70% to 80% penetration. I'll put us even if not higher than satellite. I believe we will find a simple way to bring this complexity into the car so that it works just like radio when you turn it on.